Today we're joined by the phenomenal Mark Leslie, whose 40 years of storytelling have thrilled readers across various genres. Mark's work shows us that creativity knows no bounds. In today's episode of the Writers' Corner live show, we're going to explore the 20th anniversary celebration of One Hand Screaming, a behind-the-scenes peek at a trivia guide to National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, as well as creative ventures that pair books with beer, and legacy building tips every writer needs to hear. Don't go away. We'll be right back with the Writers' Corner live show.
Imagine a world where the lines of reality blur with the fantastical. Embark on journeys from humble beginnings to the pinnacles of literary greatness. On the Writers' Corner, we delve into the lives of unique wordsmiths, known for their compelling storytelling. They are artisans who craft fantastical realms, etched in our memory long after the final page is turned. Every tale begins with a single word, a single idea. Authors create sensations that keep you on the edge of your seat. Witness how they transform setbacks into stepping stones, use refusals to spark growth, and turn rejections into catalysts for new inspiration. Witness the diversity in writing as it gives birth to a vast array of genres, from drama to mystery to children's stories, fantasy, and reality. Join us as we uncover sources of inspiration and the magic that defines the author's craft. Find out how authors breathe life into their characters and meticulously craft narratives and plots that captivate readers. Get a sneak peek into upcoming works and join us as we celebrate literary greatness only on the Writers' Corner. We don't just celebrate best-selling Amazon and New York Times authors, but also indie authors. Join us on the journey from the birth of a tale to the creation of a masterpiece, only on the Writers' Corner live show. Stay tuned.
If you've just joined us, welcome to the Writers' Corner live show. And if you're not yet following us on social media, please do. And that way you'll get notified the next time we go live. I'm Bridgetti Lim Banda from Cape Town in South Africa. And in today's show, we talk to Mark Leslie. Our show is brought to you compliments of StreamYard, BeLive Media, as well as Creative Edge. But before we invite the amazing Mark Leslie to join us, I first want to say hello to my friend and co-host, Mary Elizabeth Jackson. And if you haven't yet met Mary, she's a multiple #1 Amazon Live best-selling author and also a certified special needs and disability advocate, and she's dedicated much of her entire life to empowering underrepresented voices through her writing and advocacy. She's also a speaker, educator, ghostwriter. Mary, how are you today?
I am wonderful. And, we've been doing this show for over 6 years. Someday I'm going to come and sit on your sofa. We're going to have some coffee or tea and just talk about all the wonderful people we've got to meet. I was thinking about when the commercial is up, the video, we could create a card deck with all the authors that we have had, their faces, their bio on the back, and then play a game of Guess Who.
Oh, my goodness. We absolutely should. I mean, we've got such a collection of stories that we've gathered over the years of amazing authors, like absolutely mind-blowing authors. And our guest today is certainly no exception. We were just saying before the show started, I think you mentioned, my apologies, I think I had a technical issue with the sound here. So I'm going to start from scratch. Welcome to the show, everyone. Mary was just saying how amazing it was that over the last 6 years or so, we have had the most incredible authors. And my response to Mary is that Mark Leslie is no exception. He is absolutely amazing. I don't know why, but it seems like this is probably the 3rd year running that we've got Mark on the show.
3 years, 3 times.
Yes, 3 years running. In December, we don't know. December is a special month, so shout out to Mark, who's going to join us in just a second. Now, for those of you who's missed those amazing opportunities to meet Mark and to get to know him better, oh my goodness, please share this with everyone, because Mark is a celebrated author. He's an editor. He's a book nerd of note whose 40-year writing career spans over 35 books that include fiction, non-fiction, anthologies. Mark is known for his darkly whimsical style. His work includes the well-known Canadian Werewolf series. He's also incredibly passionate about community and storytelling, and he often combines his writing with creative collaborations, like launching a special beer to celebrate his 20th anniversary collection. One has
to do that.
We'll have to ask him just a little bit about that when he joins us. So shall we get him to come and join us on screen, because no one else can tell us more than him.
I know. Hi, Mark.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, ladies.
Oh my gosh, we just love having you on. And I'm going to I will be doing a TikTok later about this show. So I will be talking about your Merry Christmas book. I just love the title. It's hilarious. But I do have to say, so you've been writing for 40 years, but you're 30. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know how that's possible. Yeah, I started a long time ago.
You were writing.
I got my first rejection at the age of 15, and I realized that was 40 years ago, and my mom had kept it. I still have the original envelope there, and it was interesting as I was releasing this 20th anniversary release of my very first published book. I was looking into the history for a digital treasure chest I'd put together for fans who supported it on Kickstarter, and I went, "Oh my God, 15 years old, first rejection." Hey, of hundreds of rejections I've received, maybe thousands of rejections I've received over the years.
I love it. Okay, so what excites you most about creating new stories? Because it's not like you're running out of ink, right?
No. I mean, the funny thing is I probably throw out a dozen ideas a day, things that come to mind that either get squirreled away for some other day, or there are things that are going to be applied to an existing work in progress or whatever. The challenge for me isn't necessarily those ideas. The challenge is making the time to sit down and implement them. For example, I've got the new trivia book about Christmas Vacation. I don't think I can say the full title. It's probably not appropriate but the title is Merry Christmas, the Crapper is Full. I've changed the language a little bit, but that's what Cousin Eddie says in the movie Christmas Vacation in a scene. The whole idea behind that title, by the way, is if you recognize the line, chances are you're in the target audience. So it kind of self-filters. So if you recognize the line, you probably know it. But anyways, working on that movie and trying to figure out of the dozen or so movies from the 80s that I've watched hundreds of times over the years, which are the ones I'm going to focus on releasing. So that sort of business aspect of trying to make the right decision is important. In this particular case, I'll say, I released the book on the 35th anniversary of the movie's theatrical release. I figured pick a round number year, and that can help me decide what book I'm going to work on in that series next.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness, Mark! I think you had a sneak peek at our questions for you today.
Uh-oh.
I know. I was thinking, oops. Oh, but you can still ask it. There's stuff to ask him. There's lots of stuff, right?
I know. I was just thinking, do we still ask the question? Yes, we'll still ask the question. So talking about, your Christmas book, how do you balance nostalgia and creativity when writing such a fan-focused book?
So I take the approach as somebody who actually has passion for and enjoys the film. And that's what, when I did the book about planes, trains, and automobiles, the whole focus was passion. Okay, I love this film. I love so many different aspects of the film. I'm writing this book for people like me who also love the film. And so I take that approach, but I'll also, because I'm gathering trivial facts. I'm gathering information derived from interviews and special feature DVDs and all kinds of other notes about the movie. So that can be dry in and of itself. But I take the approach of a fan. I write it with passion and enthusiasm, but I also inject a little bit of myself into it. So, for example, in the introduction for the Canadian Mounted, which is a book about planes, trains, and automobiles, I explain why I use that weird cover, and obviously the cover comes from the movie. I talk about being on a fated road trip with my son, and the fact that we've all had those days where we just can't get to where we want to go, and we keep taking all these sidetracks. Then I even have a photo of us there, and the Die Hard book, again, I guess my kid got involved in that as well because it's dedicated to him, but talked about our experience watching the movie Die Hard together. And then obviously with Christmas Vacation, I apply my own experiences with the film. And I think that personal aspect may give it a little bit more than just a list of bullet points about, trivial episodes or things for the
movie. We have so many good movies from the 80s. And it's funny. My husband and I wanted to share them with our daughters when they were younger. And then it's like, oh, some of those they can't see. So
they got to wait till they're older, right? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Then they're more appropriate. But man, we have so many good memories from our childhood, don't we, of movies? But okay, your 20th anniversary release, One Hand Screaming, revisit your earliest works. How do you think your perspective as a writer has evolved? Because obviously it has. We grow, we change, we mature, we think differently. So how for you do you feel like it's changed?
Oh, geez. Well, I'm not that much more mature. I may be older, but I don't think I think part of being a creative person, part of being a writer is embracing that enthusiasm and passion that we have for life. I mean, children are born geniuses. We're all born geniuses, and then it gets beaten out of us as we get older age. And we're all born creative geniuses in so many different aspects, but we end up losing our focus on that. We end up taking the imagination and parking it to the side as if it's not important. But I think our imagination is among the most powerful things that we're born with. And so I jokingly say I haven't matured. but when looking at the story, so one of the interesting things is when I was putting the book together 20 years ago, I looked at a whole bunch of stories I had previously published, and I tried to pick the best of the best. This time around, it was even harder because I needed to include those original stories. I needed to update my notes about the stories that go beyond those first, that add the 20 years to it. And then I actually had to I initially had the first version of the manuscript was about 160,000 words, and I wasn't even yet done adding, my favorite stories that have been published in the last 20 years. I had to cut it back down to a little over 100,000 words, just because I had already committed to a particular retail price because I was putting it into a distribution warehouse, so I needed to know all of my costs up front. So I was limited by page count. I had to keep it to a certain page count. So I had so many additional stories I initially wanted to include, but then had to cut. So it's kind of like the best of the best. And then I still had to trim it down. So I think my maturity there was doing my best to tell a story with a bunch of stories that are not connected at all, except that they're written by me, and including original work that has never been published before, but also not opening the whole kimono. I mean, there was so much more to show people, and I think part of the maturity there was holding back and saying, okay, this story will just go in another book somewhere in the future.
Amazing.
Absolutely is. Now I want to get to the beer story. That was, to me, I saw the picture that you sent, and I thought, I was very tempted to put it on screen because it's a brilliant picture, but then I wasn't sure whether Amazon would have an issue with it.
With beer?
You said beer.
Right.
So how did this
That's a good one.
collaboration how did
Yeah.
that collaboration come about? And you launched that with a Kickstarter. Can you talk us a little bit about
Yeah. So I knew I was going to celebrate the 20th anniversary of this book, and I didn't want to just re-release the same book. I wanted a whole new cover. I wanted new material. It's more than twice the size of the original. And then I released it. And so I have a regular edition. I also commissioned over $1,000 US worth of artwork, original artwork to include in the book. And so it comes with, for example, the artwork, right? So you've got
hold on a
that.
second. I want to put you on full screen. Just hold
Yeah.
up again.
Yeah.
There you
And so
go.
that's, do you want to build an anthropomorphic snow creature, which are some of my most popular stories for all ages. But then in the hardcover edition, there are 2-page spreads.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I love
2
it.
spreads.
Oh, it's
Very
And
nice.
a special
Beautiful.
full leather bound edition that has not yet, I still don't even have that, is full color for all of the artwork. And so One Hand Screaming was the title, and I wanted to do everything I could to celebrate it. So I am a huge craft beer fan. I went to a local brewery in town in the Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario area, and I sat down with Graham at Counterpoint, talked about my favorite beers he has made over the years, and I wanted something one hop screaming. So my cover designer designed the label for the beer, and we made a very, very hop forward bitter beer with a single hop, and it actually kind of punches you in the face. It's very, very strong. And I released the book, and the beer was released on the same day at the brewery. So it's part of my motivation. I used a local business here in town for printing the book. I went with a local small business, a brewery, because I'm a huge advocate. I have been president of the Canadian Booksellers Association here in Canada. I'm a huge advocate for supporting small businesses and independent bookstores, etc. So I really wanted to do something that was going to drive foot traffic into a great community brewery that does a lot of great community events and stuff like that, and share two of my biggest passions, beer and books.
I love it. Mark, you know what? I'm not sure anyone else has done this. And I do know.
I don't think so. I think it's the first.
I think it has been done. I am not the first. I have seen other authors who have done similar things with beer breweries, but I'm pretty sure I'm the first Canadian horror author to have done it.
Hey, all right. Well, I love it. I just think it's absolutely amazing, Mark. And do you get a percentage of the sales of the beer since you helped create it?
Well, no. So it's interesting. The collaboration was as simple as me showing up the day that Graham was starting to do the brewing. He's the brewmaster at Counterpoint and the owner, and dump in 5 bags of malts and hops and stuff. All I had to do was dump in one of the bags and stir it, and then we just sat back and had some beers. That's collaboration. It did not cost me anything, so he didn't charge me for making the beer. And part of my motivation was wanting him to make money off the sales. So not only I could buy the beer from him at wholesale, like at a reduced cost, so I could have some. I still have a few because it came out in October, and it's all gone now. There were some local restaurants that were serving it, a local beer bar that I go to that was serving it as well. So it was kind of cool to see this beer out in the wild, like my child, and to see people checking it in on Untapped. And I even made, I made a special glass that says One Hop Screaming. It has the logo on it. And then the other side of the glass says Thirsty for a Beer and a Mark Leslie story. And again, that was
sweet.
I love it. Mark, I want the glass. Can you ship me one here to the States?
Of course I will, yes.
I want it. My husband
amazing.
My husband works in that industry. He works in the beverage industry. So
yeah, of course I can. I
have to tell him. Oh my gosh, this is so fun, Mark. I love it. Because we really have to think outside the box. We have got to be creative in order. There's just so much in the writing world that you have to do things differently. Otherwise, you just get so unnoticed. So I just love that you, as a fellow author, and, you know, I actually, Bridgetti, I think he's been on 4 times. We need to give him an award. We have to send him one because I think he was on twice in 1 year as I've been sitting here thinking about it. But, you know, I just love it. And I'm, you know, we're very supportive of our author friends and whatever they're doing. So I love to see things like this. It makes my heart so happy. And it's so much fun, Mark. You're such a fun person. I wish we lived near you in Canada and we could have come and support you.
Can you come to the beer launch, the book launch, the beer launch?
I know, right. Okay, so many of your books explore darker themes, yet you also write humor and trivia, which we're talking about. How do you shift gears between that? You know, is it hard, or have you done it so much you're used to it now?
Yeah, I think I'm used to it because I think my dark fiction will include humor. It'll include a darker kind of humor as well. And I do research. I do research for true ghost story books, but I also do research for the trivia books for for the movies, the 80s nostalgia movies as well. So I don't have an issue switching, and I imagine that a very perceptive reader will still see my voice, whether it's my fiction, whether it's nonfiction trivia books, or even whether it's the books that I've written for other authors as well. I don't try to hide my voice. The only time I do try to either hide my voice or blend my voice is when I've co-authored nonfiction books on the paranormal, where when we release a chapter, there's a difference between I and then the collective I of the writer. And I remember doing that very specifically with a couple of my co-authors, where we kind of went in and we had to revise each other's voice to make it a little bit more vanilla, a little bit less uniquely each person. We wanted it to be, you just appreciate the book, not, oh, Mark wrote this chapter. That was more important. What was more important was the content, not the voice. But in most of the stuff that I write, I think you can still see a distinctness of the voice. And that, as we continue in writers, and there are emerging technologies like AI, I think that's going to be one of the huge differentiators for writers nowadays, is going to be that voice or that humanity. And that I don't just want a book of trivia. I don't just want an urban fantasy adventure. I want those written by Mark Leslie, because I like that voice.
Amen.
Wow, that is amazing. You've certainly, mastered your craft. And so, going with you being a master of your craft, I'm gonna go with, what is one piece of advice you would like to give to an aspiring author about how to build a sustainable career as a writer?
That's a tough one, because I'm going to start off sounding very negative, and I'm going to say most books published do not sell. I know that sounds negative. It sounds horrible, but I'm going to give you some hopeful advice. I think you need to write the stories that resonate in your heart, in your soul, and your mind. The stories you can't not write, because you're so excited to share them with the world. You put so much of your blood, sweat, and tears, your heart and your soul into that book. Because the very act of creating a story, even if only one or two other people read it, is the fundamental way that you connect with another human being. And if you're driven so much to write, focus not on what the market wants and all these insane ideas about chasing the market, because the market's going to constantly shift and change and evolve, and it's going to go in directions we have no clue. If you write the story that's true to you, if you write the stories that are so passionate to you, you win the minute you finish the story. Then you win again when it's published. Then, if it sells, that's a windfall in general. So you start off by feeding your soul and your heart first, and your passion for telling the stories you want to tell. I go back to, and I'll use a perfect example. When I wrote The Canadian Mounted, the book of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, I honestly in my heart of hearts, thought maybe another 30 people in the entire world were nerdy enough like me that they would want this book. I wrote it for me. It was a passion project completely. It's probably, I think it may actually be my best-selling book. And it was the book I did not intend to ever be something that would sell more than a handful of copies. I focused just on my heart and just on my soul. And it's so rewarding to know that the thing that meant so much to me was a book that's resonated with thousands and thousands of readers. I mean, wow, that is absolutely amazing. And I see the social media posts of people in airports holding the book up like a prop, just like John Candy in the movie. I mean, that's again, it's a win after a win after a win. And then the sales itself are just kind of a bonus win.
And this is why we love you so much. Oh my gosh. I mean, Mark, we could just listen to you talk, and your passion is so infectious. I mean, I have goosebumps just listening to you talk, because I guess as a fellow author, it's like I feel what you're saying, and it's like, oh my gosh, yes, this resonates, and we need to listen to what Mark says, because like
I think there's nothing better than Mark. I think nothing tops walking past someone that's reading your book.
Oh my God, when you see your book in the wild, oh yeah, that is.
It's like, wow.
There's nothing like that. That is just yeah. Or when somebody, I was at an event the other day, and somebody came, and I had like my book table, and she opened up her phone. She goes, yeah, I have the entire Canadian Werewolf series. I have all 7 books. And I was like, whoa, cool.
Wow.
Because she saw them, she got excited, and then she had to go and check. She goes, no, I already have them.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, I know, right? Score. I know.
I didn't make a sale that day, but it didn't matter, because there was somebody there who knew that those books were for her and already had them. And that just made, and the funny thing is she bought them, she hadn't read them yet. So maybe me being there,
now she'll read them.
Her to pick up the story and then enjoy it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I love it. I know. I think for me, and we have one more question for you. I think we have time for one more question, but I know for me, it was being in the library, and Carson, my son, who his face is on the cover of my children's books, held up the book in the library and said, "Mommy, look, it's me." And it just, for him, that's such a cool moment in his life, right? And then for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so wild. But okay, so we want to know what's next for you. And are there any dream projects or genres that you would like to tackle that you haven't?
Oh, geez. No, I think in terms of genres and stuff like that, I'm open to trying new things. I mean, I co-authored a romance novel. Never thought I would write a romance novel, but I needed the help of a really dear friend of mine for that. What's next is in my Canadian Werewolf series, I am working on a Canadian Werewolf in London, Ontario. It'll be book 8 in my series. I have my werewolf who lives in New York returning to London, Ontario, Canada to visit, to look up his roots and solve a sort of a mystery related to his family. I've got a book for writers coming out called A Book in Hand, which is more about the critical importance of physical book sales and how authors can leverage that. And then I have a few other projects sort of in the works. I have a book on author branding that's coming out. And I think the next book I'm going to be working on for movie trivia based on nostalgia is, I think, the 50th anniversary of the Monty Python, The Holy Grail is 2025. So I have to release a book about that in 2025. And then, of course, I've got the Cheers TV show is something I've watched repeatedly, and I've had a beer with Norm. So, I mean, that's going to be on the horizon somewhere too. There's just so many, and there's so many other great 80s films that I have to get to.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Well, you're going to be writing forever. Thank you so much, Mark. We just love having you on. There's going to be many more times, I can tell. And we're so excited. Yes, I want a glass. Absolutely.
I will ship you a glass, of course. I still have a few left.
Awesome.
Mark, thank you so much. You'll have to send mine to my sister-in-law in Canada.
We'll do that as well. I'll get the addresses from you after we finish the show.
Mark, thank you so much. And to our amazing audience out there, if you enjoyed today's conversation, please do go buy a copy of Mark Leslie's books on Amazon. And until next time, keep reading, stay inspired, and remember, every great story begins with a dream. We'll see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us on the Writer's Corner live show. 30 minutes of insightful author conversations with some of the biggest names in the industry, including award-winning authors and international indie sensations. Join us on the next episode of the Writer's Corner live show.